Keep all your game, highs and lows, highs and lows. It's all the same.
Hello there, welcome back to my channel. It's Rosa, and today I'm bringing to you yet another recipe. This one is a 30-minute recipe. It may not seem like it, but if you're able to multitask and make 3 things at the same time, then yes, this is a 30-minute recipe. So while I'm cutting my chicken here, I'll be explaining to you what this recipe is. This recipe is called chicken stroganoff. You can make this with any type of meat, beef or pork or chicken. I bet you could even make this with tofu if for a vegetarian option. I just searched it up. The classic recipe is made with beef, and it's a French origin recipe. So if you didn't know that, there you go. I didn't too. I just literally searched it up while I was doing this voiceover. So I'm just cutting my chicken up into strips. Sometimes I cut it up into cubes, other times I cut it up into strips. It's literally just what I feel like, and you can do whatever you feel like too. Now, I don't know what the original recipe calls for, because I've always just made this the way I think my mom made it, I guess. And this recipe, I never make it the same way. This is one of those recipes that I measure with my heart. You know, everyone has those types of recipes, but it's generally the same. I just probably put in a little bit extra of something else on the other day. Whatever I'm feeling like, honestly. Here I am just dicing up an onion. Next I'm going to be peeling some garlic cloves, and then I will be mincing them as fine as I can get them. I don't have a garlic crusher, or I would use that because that's probably a lot more quick than dicing them up. Alright, so next up. This is one of those things that I don't always do for this recipe. Sometimes I just used canned mushrooms, and I'm not saying sometimes, I mean most of the times I use canned mushrooms. I went to the store, I think it was this day, and I saw these fresh mushrooms and I was like, why not? And honestly, it did make a difference. Fresh mushrooms taste so much better. It was so tasty, but I'm gonna be honest, sometimes convenience wins, and not every day I'm gonna have mushrooms at home. I don't usually use fresh mushrooms for recipes, so if you don't have fresh mushrooms, just use canned mushrooms, because that's what I use most of the time. Alright, after chopping up all those ingredients, I'm going to start putting them in the pan. I just put in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm going to start sauteing my onions and garlic. And if you're going to put in your garlic at the same time with your onions, just be careful so your garlic doesn't burn, because garlic cooks a lot more fast than onion does. But I was determined to keep an eye on this and not let it burn this time, and I kept mixing it. I added in the mushrooms right now too, because since they're not canned, they need to cook a little bit longer. Alright, after a few minutes, when the onion was starting to get a little bit translucent, I added in 1 bay leaf. This is totally optional. I just love the taste of bay leaf. My boyfriend argues that bay leaves are usually just for beef recipes, but I do not agree at all. I love bay leaves. I think it gives such a great taste. And now I am adding in my chicken so it can start cooking, and I add it in batches so I can stir in to make sure that the garlic doesn't burn. Once all your chicken is in the pan, add salt to taste, mix it up, and now we're going to start adding some seasonings. So I added about a tablespoon of tomato paste and 2 tablespoons of pepper paste, Portuguese pepper paste. And then I added maybe a teaspoon of thyme and black pepper, of course. And then I just mix that all up. And now it's time for wine. I added in white wine, around 1/3 cup. I usually eyeball this. If you don't like white wine, that's okay. Just add in a little bit of chicken stock or water. It's up to you. I like adding in the white wine. It eventually evaporates out and it gives a nice taste. I'm not going to show you this during the video, but in between times of letting it sit and simmer for a little bit, I start cooking the french fries and the rice in order to make this process a little bit quicker. You will have time to do that because the chicken needs to cook for a little bit, so that's the perfect time to get your side dishes going. You will see me throughout the video adding in more spices, but it's just more of the same. I usually adjust to taste. I'm always tasting my recipe. I would be a really bad chef at a restaurant because I'm always tasting. Always. Alright, now the chicken is mostly cooked and it's time to add in the main ingredient for this recipe, which is the heavy cream. This is what makes the recipe so nice and creamy. I love it. Sometimes I only use 1 carton. The first carton is only 200 milliliters, and sometimes I feel like that's not enough because I like to have sauce to put over the rice and the potatoes. So I eventually add in, later on, half of another carton, which is around another 100 milliliters. Okay, so now I'm going to air fry some french fries. It's a healthier way. This here is optional. You do not have to put in some oil. I use a tablespoon of oil just to make it a little bit more crispier, but it's not necessary. Into my air fry, that goes at 185 degrees for 20 minutes. Okay, so this is where I add in the rest of that heavy cream that I mentioned earlier. I'm just mixing this around and I'm going to be tasting it. I decide to add in a bit of hot sauce because me and my boyfriend, we love spicy food. And that was pretty much it. I mix it up and I just let it cook for another 5 to 10 minutes and that was done.
Keep all your game, highs and lows, highs and lows. It's all the same, highs and lows, highs and lows. Keep all your game, highs and lows, highs and lows.
I am starting on the rice now, and I don't always do this, but from time to time I like to change things up a bit. And so today I am going to be shredding a carrot so I can cook it with my rice. Normally I just make plain white rice when I make this recipe, but today I felt a little special. I'm also in and out of my island to Terceira. If you watched my last video, I did put up a blog, so I guess I'll link that in the description down below if you're interested in that. And I'm just adding in maybe a teaspoon of olive oil and a cup and a half of rice. I am using basmati rice. I've learned that this rice takes a little bit more water than normal rice does, so I add in just a little bit over 3 cups. And now I've seasoned it with salt and I'm going to put it on the stove. I let that cook for 10 minutes. I put this on the stove while my chicken was cooking So by the time my chicken was done cooking, the rice was also done cooking, and I just had to wait another 5 minutes for the french fries. Now if you're making a big dose of french fries, you can start making those french fries right before you start making anything else, so it can cook and you give it enough time to cook through. Now here's a little extra scene for you. I am just showing myself setting the table, I'm sorry. You know, bilingual people, sometimes they use the wrong terms because you're using the terms from the other language. Do you know what I mean? If you're bilingual, let me know what your second language is. And if you know more than 2 languages, wow, pat yourself on the back, that is amazing. Alright, there you have it, 30 minutes meal. This is so delicious, it's such a heartwarming meal. And if you've never tried this before, what are you waiting for? You have the recipe in front of you. So go ahead and make it. Let me know how you liked it. If you have any suggestions or any recipes that you would like to see me make, you can go ahead and comment that in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you come back next time. Goodbye. Have a nice weekend.